Hello, buddy. Welcome back to Tin Man's Core Channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'll be reacting to my second scary storyteller channel for you all. And this one, Shiny Gold Tales, and the video I picked out to watch is 3 true scary stories about being followed. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off and move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road and in the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
I'm 17 years old, but I often get mistaken for 21 to 24 because I got into university early. First of all, let me start off by saying that I'm used to being stalked. I guess since I have the face of a child, but the height of an adult, that attracts creepers.
I ain't good.
I'm used to it. I've actually made up a system for how to check if a stalker is dangerous or not. This story happened about 4 or 5 months ago. I was a student at a university in Marbella, Spain at the time. I'm the kind of person who likes to get to class before everyone else. One day, I was walking to the university early in the morning. There weren't any sidewalks, so the students had to walk on the side, if not in the middle of the road. I was listening to music, but I still heard the sound of a car creeping up behind me. I thought I just wanted to get by, so I moved to the side. I pulled my earbuds out, just as a safety measure, and looked at the driver. He was almost leaning out of his window entirely, staring at me creepily.
Okay, first of all, I'm like this person because I always like to be the first one to class all the time. But sometimes that don't happen. I'm usually end up being like the 6th student before the rest of them come in and the bell rings. But if someone is just creepily driving their car next to you while you're walking on the way to school, I would have been either speed walking or run, because you definitely don't want to still keep on walking and then that guy decides to stop his car and get out and grab you. But anyway, let's continue with the story, see what happens next.
His eyes looked as if they were about to pop out of his face. They were the eyes of someone who does a whole lot of drugs. Being a little startled by this, I pretended to walk on as if nothing was wrong, occasionally glancing at him. I had seen him around before. He and some of his companions would go up to a lot of the girls at my school and try to talk to them. He would try to get them inside his car and take them back to his house. Some of the girls even caught the men trying to take pictures of them. Every time anyone would pass their small shack of a home, there were 4 or 5 men who lived there. It stunk of weed. Now that I think of it, I wonder why the police never did anything about them. I had finally reached the tunnel that you have to cross to get to the university trail. It was a rundown road up a hill, with nothing but farms around it.
You mean to tell me that even though you could tell that these guys have their eyeballs literally almost coming out of their skulls, they've been smoking weed and taking pictures of the girls, the police can't do nothing about that? Unbelievable. I would have been arresting them if I was a police officer and I heard a lot about this happening.
Very convenient. I still heard the car creeping behind me, and it was getting slower as I got closer to the tunnel. I sprinted as soon as I reached the tunnel, out onto the trail. I hadn't stopped running till I reached the university's main building. I had looked back and saw the car made a U-turn at the head of the trail and disappeared into the distance. Panting, I tried to open the building's door, but it was locked. I pulled out my phone and quickly called my friend and asked her why it was closed at the time. Turns out it was a holiday, meaning that I got up with no reason to be there anyway. After collecting myself, I walked back down to the trail stealthily and glanced around everywhere. The car nor the man was in sight. Relieved, I decided to walk through the tunnel at ease. Once I was back on the road, I heard the familiar sound of that car creeping up behind me. I took a quick glance over my shoulder, and I could see that it was that same creeper guy, still staring at me, with half his body sticking out of the window. Thinking quickly, I remembered that there was a small fence up ahead that I could jump over, and then it would land me right into a forest. A forest with lots of cover that I know like the back of my hand. I jogged up to the fence and leaned against it facing the road and the car. Then I pulled out my phone and pretended to text someone, but I was actually filming the guy's actions. The man's car almost came to a halt, and I was ready to defend myself if I needed to. The man seemed as if he was about to open his door when another car came up behind him. This car seemed to be perfectly normal. In fact, the driver wasn't too happy about my stalker's car driving so slowly. More and more cars began piling up behind Mr. Creeper, forcing him to move on down the road. I watched with a smirk as his face turned into a look of anger. The kind of face a baby would make. I've noticed a lot of stalkers make that face when they fail. I watched him, and he watched me, until he looked away, having to see where he was driving off to. I waited until he turned the corner, knowing that he might make a U-turn again. Then I sprinted back to my apartment, double-checking if I was being watched before I went in. I did see that guy again on a couple of occasions. He and his buddies tried to talk to me, even tried to touch my arm as I walked away. Now that I think of it, it is a lot creepier than I originally viewed it. Just exactly what were they up to? I'm now at a different university that's much better, especially with security.
Like this person said earlier, that since they look like a young teenage girl and they got a baby sugar face, I can see her being an easy target because the stalkers think that she's a young girl to take advantage of, But she's seen a lot of them, so she knows what to do. But every time you get followed or stalked by these people again, do like you did last time. Keep filming everything because then you'll have evidence to give to police. But I'm glad that she's okay and then I get physically assaulted. So let's get to story number 2.
This happened just a few days ago. I'm an 18-year-old female, and I live in a small town in Australia. I took my 12-year-old Jack Russell mix for a short 20-minute walk down the road at around 7:30 p.m.
Okay.
The sun was just starting to set, and I could see, but not too well. That could have just been because of my poor eyesight, but I was still able to manage without a flashlight. We had just made our loop around a small community garden. As I was leaving through the gate, I looked to my right and saw a person in all black headed towards me. I was also wearing all black, so we both must have looked pretty suspicious. Out of panic, I crossed the road. The dark figure did the same, not more than a second later. I'm a naturally fast walker, but I forced myself to go even faster. All I had to do was cross the road one more time, then turn right, and go past a few houses, and I would be home.
That's another thing about people getting followed, especially at night. You're just going out there to walk your dog, and then you never know if somebody might be either hiding behind a tree or a bush and keep following you every step of the way. But if you notice danger, do like this person's doing. Run away from it and get back to your place quickly.
I started walking even faster, but not so fast so that it would be obvious. I crossed the road and turned right. The person didn't cross the road, but he did turn right and stayed on the other side of the road. I knew that if he crossed, I could run, and I wasn't too far from home. When I got into my yard, the person stopped to cross the street. At this point, I realized the door was locked, and I didn't have a key. The person just stood there, looking at me. I rang the bell and started pounding on the door. My older brother answered it, and that person made his way into our yard. My brother told the person to F off, and then he walked back the way he came. My brother asked who it was, and then I told him what had just happened.
Thank God your brother was even awake to help you out with that, because if not, that stalker would have ran up on the porch and attacked this woman. Probably robbed him too, you never know. But once he said F off, that guy got to him and left. But if he comes back, since he knows where you live at, call the police. Then he truly won't be back at all.
This all began in late July of 2012. I come from a small town where everyone knows everyone. I had just turned 18, and like most 18-year-olds in my town, I like to go drinking down by the beach and also have a bonfire. I would go with my regular group of friends who I would hang out with. We would often go to the bigger cities to find things to do. I was out with a close friend of mine. We'll call him Adam. Adam and I decided that we wanted to go and see a movie in the big city. After saying goodnight to my parents and hopping into Adam's car, we went to the movie theater and had a pretty good time. After the movie had finished, we decided to go to McDonald's and get some food. That was where I met the man who ruined my life. He served my friend while I stood beside him at the counter, busying myself with my phone texting friends while Adam placed our orders. The guy was serving us. He gave me a smile. I smiled back. Then I said to my friend that I was going out to have a cigarette. He nodded, and then I went outside. Moments later, he walked out with our food, and the guy who served us was walking behind him. He came and stood next to me and asked for a lighter, then introduced himself. We'll call him Chris. Chris sparked up a conversation and gave me his number. He said that he'd like to take me to a movie sometime. I agreed, and we made plans to see each other the following weekend.
Well, I can say this: going to the movies with somebody and then going to McDonald's for supper sounds like a easy night in town for me. But then you meet a guy that wants to date you that's working at McDonald's. Be a good plus, but also backfire instantly. Hence why she said the person that ruined her life. So I guarantee you that they broke it up and he's madly in love still with her and won't let her go. But let's just continue with the story and see what happens between them two.
After about a month of spending a lot of time with Chris, we agreed to make our relationship official. He would spend most weeknights at my parents' house. I lived in a granny flat on my parents' property. He would drop me off at school in the morning, much to the disgust of my friends, who all had to take the bus. One morning, when Chris was driving me to school, I said that he should pull over next to a school bus, which was waiting for students to climb aboard. One of my friends was waiting next to the bus, so I stuck my head out the window and told her to climb in. This was a huge mistake, for reasons that will become clear later. A few weeks after my friend met Chris, we broke up, and it was a messy breakup. Shortly after that, scary things began to happen. I would often hear people walking around on my gravel driveway at random hours of the night. I would see Chris's car sitting down at the end of my parents' road under the streetlight before going to bed. The stalking progressed to the point where I could hear him standing outside my ranch slider, talking to someone, and trying to jiggle the door open. Things became really scary for me when I started to receive phone calls and texts from random numbers. They would say that they were watching me as I walked to the bus every morning. At that time, I was studying for my year-end exams and preparing for university applications. I had been confiding in my friend Julia about everything that was happening. She, unknown to me, had been spending more time with Chris since our first introduction when I gave her a lift to school.
That I would take as a sign of friend betrayal right there. Probably because her ex started spending a little bit more time with this person. And then once you two broke up, he still wants to explain things, but she don't want nothing to do with you no more. And she probably thought that they were having a thing too. You just never know nowadays who you could trust to date.
This was a fatal mistake on my behalf because she knew exactly where I was most of the time. She knew my schedule, and she most likely knew when I was going to be alone. She was telling all of that to Chris. They began to date, and when they did, the texts became more frequent from both of them. They even attempted to harm me one evening when I was studying late with people from my drama class. We were working on our final performance for the year, and we'd be alone in an easily accessible classroom until about 10 p.m.
I'll be like, why are you telling my ex everything about me, like my schedule and when I'm going to be alone? He don't need to know that. I mean, that's what she should have said. But in the fact that they're dating and both of them threaten to harm her, I'll be like, oh crap, he got her under his fingertips. That ain't going to be smooth sailing. I'll be ending ties with both of them altogether.
Some of my classmates noticed his car parked across the road from where our classroom was. They said it looked like there were two figures sitting in the front seats. I freaked out and rang my mom. She came and took me home, watching the road to make sure we weren't being followed. I became so scared that I had to go to the police about the messages I'd received. Chris carried weapons in his car because he liked to hunt. I knew it was also for security purposes because he was involved in the world of drugs. Once I had lodged a formal complaint against Chris and informed the police about his weapons, they went around and had a look, but they found nothing. That evening, he sat down at the end of the road as usual and waited for all the lights to go out. Then he came up along the front paddocks of the house and up the driveway. I was sleeping in my parents' living room, which was right beside the driveway. There were big open windows and ranch sliders to my brother's room. I heard him walk along the side of the house on the driveway and towards my flat, thinking I was in there. Then I heard the sound of a gun being cocked. I sat up for a moment, thinking of what I should do. I crawled down the hallway to my parents' room and quietly said to my mom, "Someone's outside, Mom. Get up. There's someone outside." My dad bolted out of the room and grabbed his .22 rifle. Then he ran out to the kitchen door and bolted down the driveway, chasing after someone. After that night, things calmed down for about a month. I had decided to move to a new city, which was around 10 hours a day, and I was packing. The night after I left, my mom rang to say that someone had been in my place. She said that there were muddy boot tracks all throughout the house, as if someone was trying to scope the place out. Odd things continued to happen at my parents' place. Trees were cut down in the middle of the night. A car drove super slowly with its lights off at odd hours of the night. Things started happening to me at my new apartment as well. Each morning when I went out, there would be a car parked across the road with tinted windows. I received voicemails of a violent nature from private numbers. This kept up until late last year. For some reason, it all stopped. No phone calls, no sightings of random cars, no odd things going on at my parents' house. Every time I go home, I never tell anyone when I'm leaving or when I'll be back for my own safety. I get flashbacks when I hear something like a car backfire, or I see a car similar to the one Chris used to drive. I always keep my home address private and my phone number restricted because he's still out there, and I don't want to put any other people at risk. I always say to my mom, if I go missing, you know where to start looking.
That's a little strange. Why would somebody cut down the trees on her parents' property? Maybe just so they could get an easy eye access. I'm surprised the police couldn't find anything on him to bust him and have him arrested. Just so they wouldn't be living a life of fear anymore and cause her to move. Because I'd be mad if he found out that, yes, she did move and found out where she's staying at now. Nobody should be living in fear throughout the rest of their days because of a psycho ex like that. But I'm just glad that she's okay right now and nothing bad happened to her. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Shiny Gold Tales reactions like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man Square channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. I say that's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.